Blood drips onto polished marble when no one's supposed to bleed at weddings. A champagne flute shatters. 200 guests freeze as a man in a black suit walks through the vineyard gates with the kind of silence that precedes violence. He shouldn't be here. Everyone knows it. But he walks straight to the woman everyone forgot was standing there, Ava Calloway, one arm, a lifetime of being invisible, and says 5 words that rewrite her entire existence. "You're not alone anymore, Ava." And just like that, the girl nobody ever chose becomes the most dangerous person at the wedding. Because when a man like Ethan Graves claims you in public, the world doesn't ask if you're ready. It just watches to see who survives. If you want to see how a forgotten woman becomes untouchable, stay until the end. Hit the like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Ach. The vineyard stretched across golden California hills like a postcard designed to make poor people feel worse about themselves. White roses climbed stone arches that probably cost more than Ava Calloway's entire year of rent. Crystal glasses caught sunlight and threw it back in sharp little rainbows. Violins hummed beneath a silk canopy where her younger sister Amber Vale stood glowing in $10,000 of Italian lace, looking like every man's fantasy and every woman's envy. Ava stood near the back garden wall, half hidden behind a decorative olive tree, wearing a pale blue dress she'd bought on sale 3 months ago. Her right sleeve hung carefully tailored to accommodate the absence beneath it, the arm she'd lost in a car accident when she was 19. 7 years later, she still dressed like she was apologizing for existing. A woman in pearls glanced at Ava, smiled with too many teeth, then looked away fast. Ava knew that smile. She'd been collecting them her whole life. The smile that said, "I see you, I pity you, please don't make me talk about it." "Ava, sweetheart?" Her mother appeared suddenly, champagne drunk and anxious. "Why are you hiding back here? Come sit at the family table." "I'm fine, Mom. You look lonely." "I'm not." Her mother's face tightened. "People are asking why you're standing alone." Ava's jaw locked. "Then tell them I'm enjoying the view." Her mother sighed, squeezed Ava's shoulder with the kind of touch that felt more like an apology than affection, then drifted back toward the reception. Ava watched her go, feeling the familiar ache settle in her chest, the one that came from being loved but not understood, tolerated but not celebrated. Across the garden, Amber laughed at something her new husband said. She looked radiant, perfect, whole. Ava pulled her phone from her small clutch and opened the messaging app. One contact sat at the top of her screen, Ethan Graves. She'd met him 6 months ago in an online support group for people dealing with loss. He'd never specified what kind of loss. She'd never asked. Their conversations had started cautiously, short messages about bad days and sleepless nights, then deepened into something neither of them had names for. He was the only person who talked to her like she wasn't broken, who asked her real questions, who remembered what she said. She typed quickly. "Weddings are psychological warfare disguised as celebrations." 3 dots appeared immediately. "Yours or someone else's?" "My sister's. I'm the family ghost, present but not participating." "You're there alone?" Ava hesitated, then typed the truth. "Always." The response came faster this time. "Send me the address." Ava stared at the screen. Her heart kicked hard against her ribs. "What? The address? I'm coming." Her hands went cold. "Ethan, we've never met. You don't even know what state I'm in. Northern California, Napa Valley, some vineyard estate your sister rented because she wanted her wedding to look like a movie. You told me 2 weeks ago. I remember everything you say, Ava." Her breath caught. She reread the message twice, pulse hammering. "You can't just show up." "Why not?" "Because..." She stopped typing. "Because what? Because normal people didn't do that? Because she wasn't worth the effort? Because she'd spent so long being invisible that the idea of someone choosing her publicly felt like a mistake waiting to happen?" She deleted the half-written sentence and typed something different. "Because I don't want you to see me and realize I'm not who you thought I was." The reply took longer this time. "Ava, I already know who you are. Send me the address." She sat there for 30 seconds, staring at her phone, feeling something crack open inside her chest. Then she sent him the location. "I'll be there in 2 hours," he wrote. "Don't leave." Ava slipped her phone back into her clutch and pressed her hand against her stomach, trying to calm the nausea rising in her throat. She didn't know what Ethan looked like. She didn't know his last name beyond what he'd given her. She didn't know if this was reckless or romantic or just plain stupid, but she also didn't leave. The reception moved indoors as the sun dropped lower. Ava found herself at a table near the back, surrounded by distant cousins who made polite conversation for 60 seconds before turning to talk to each other. She picked at salmon she didn't want and sipped wine that tasted like someone's expensive mistake. Amber appeared suddenly, glowing and breathless, her veil trailing behind her like a silk ghost. "Ava!" She leaned down, smelling like champagne and gardenias. "Why aren't you dancing?" "I don't dance." "You used to." "That was before." Amber's smile flickered. "You can't let the accident define you forever." Ava set her wine glass down carefully. I'm just not interested in performing joy for strangers." "God, Ava." Amber straightened, her smile tightening. "Why do you always have to make everything so heavy?" "I didn't realize I was." Amber's new husband called her name from across the room. She glanced back, relief flooding her face. "I have to go. Try to enjoy yourself, okay? This is supposed to be a happy day." She disappeared into the crowd before Ava could respond. Ava stood, suddenly suffocating beneath the weight of silk and string lights and forced smiles. She slipped out through the side doors into the courtyard, where the evening air hit her skin like cold water. She walked toward the garden wall, away from the noise, and leaned against the stone. Her phone buzzed. "I'm at the gate." Ava's stomach flipped. She typed fast. "You're serious, always." "What if this is a mistake? Then we'll make it together." Ava closed her eyes, breathed in once, then walked back toward the main entrance. Her heart slammed against her ribs so hard she thought people might hear it. She pushed through the double doors into the main courtyard just as the evening crowd began gathering for toasts. Guests clustered near the outdoor bar, holding champagne flutes and laughing too loud. Ava moved along the edge of the space, scanning the entrance. Then the atmosphere changed. Conversations died mid-sentence. Heads turned. A ripple of tension moved through the crowd like someone had opened a door into winter. A man stepped through the vineyard gates. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a black suit that looked like it cost more than most people's cars. Dark hair, sharp jawline, and eyes that moved across the crowd with the kind of cold precision that made people step back without realizing they were doing it. He walked like violence was a language he spoke fluently, but chose not to use unless necessary, and he walked straight toward Ava. People moved aside. Not obviously, not dramatically. Just enough to let him pass. The kind of instinctive retreat prey animals make when predators enter the room. Ava stood frozen, her pulse roaring in her ears. He stopped in front of her. Up close, he was more than she'd expected. Older than his voice suggested, maybe mid-30s, with faint scars along his knuckles, and a gaze that stripped away every defense she'd ever built. "Ava," he said quietly. Her name in his voice felt like a key turning in a lock she didn't know existed. "Ethan." His mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile, but wasn't cold either. "Sorry I'm late." Then he placed his hand against the small of her back, firm, protective, deliberate, and leaned down so only she could hear him. "You're not alone anymore." Ava's knees almost buckled. She'd spent 26 years being invisible, being tolerated, being the person people looked past. And in one sentence, Ethan Graves made her the center of the entire room. Around them, people stared. Ava's mother appeared suddenly, her face pale. "Ava, who—" "This is Ethan," Ava said, her voice steadier than she expected. "My date." Her mother's eyes widened. She looked at Ethan, then back at Ava, then at Ethan again. "I didn't know you were bringing someone." "I didn't either," Ava admitted. Ethan extended his hand toward her mother, his expression unreadable. "Mrs. Calloway. Beautiful wedding." Her mother shook his hand like she was touching something that might bite. "Thank you, yes, thank you." She disappeared back into the crowd without finishing her sentence. Ethan glanced down at Ava. "You okay?" She nodded, her throat tight. "I don't know what I'm doing." "Neither do I," he said. "But I'm here." And somehow, that was enough. The reception shifted after Ethan arrived. Ava felt it immediately. The way people watched her now, the way conversations paused when she walked past, the way strangers suddenly seemed interested in who she was. It wasn't admiration, it was fear. Ethan stayed close, not hovering, but present. His hand brushed hers once, then stayed there. She let him. An older man in an expensive suit approached them near the bar, his smile tight. "Ethan Graves, didn't expect to see you at a place like this." Ethan's expression didn't change. "Richard." "You know each other?" Ava asked. Richard's smile widened. "We run in similar circles, though Ethan here tends to keep a lower profile these days." "Smart choice," Ethan said flatly. "You should try it." Richard laughed, but it sounded forced. Still sharp as ever. He glanced at Ava, his gaze lingering on her missing arm for half a second too long. "Lucky man." Ethan's hand tightened against Ava's waist. "Yeah, I am." Richard walked away quickly. Ava turned toward Ethan, her chest tightening. "What was that?" "Old business." "What kind of business?" Ethan's jaw flexed. "The kind I don't do anymore." "That's not an answer." "I know." She pulled back slightly. "Ethan." "Later," he said quietly. "I promise. But not here." Ava wanted to push. She wanted to demand real answers. But the way he looked at her, steady, sincere, almost desperate, stopped her. "Okay," she said finally. "Later." They moved through the reception together, and Ava realized something strange. She wasn't hiding anymore. She wasn't shrinking into corners or avoiding eye contact. Ethan's presence beside her made her feel solid, real, visible. For the first time in her life, someone had chosen her publicly, deliberately, in front of everyone, and it felt like the ground had shifted beneath her feet. Mart. The evening deepened, toasts were made, amber glowed beneath the attention. Ava's father gave a sentimental speech that made half the room cry. Ava sat beside Ethan at a table near the edge of the tent, watching everything unfold like she was observing someone else's life. Then a man appeared. He walked through the side entrance with the same quiet authority Ethan carried, but sharper, hungrier. His suit was tailored, his smile dangerous, and when his eyes landed on Ethan, something cold slid through the air. Ethan went still. The man crossed the space slowly, weaving between tables, ignoring everyone else. He stopped in front of Ethan and smiled. "Ethan Graves, back among the living." Ethan's voice dropped into something flat and controlled. "Marcus. Marcus Vane." Ava didn't know the name, but she felt the weight of it immediately. This man wasn't like Richard. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't afraid. He was something worse. Marcus glanced at Ava, his smile widening. "And who's this?" "None of your business," Ethan said. "Come on, Ethan. Manners." Marcus extended his hand toward Ava. "Marcus Vane, old friend." Ava didn't take his hand. "Ava Calloway." Marcus's eyes lingered on her missing arm, then flicked back to Ethan. "Interesting choice." Ethan stood slowly, his body coiled tight. "Walk away, Marcus." "Relax." Marcus raised his hands in mock surrender. "I'm not here to cause trouble, just surprised to see you at a place like this, playing house, pretending to be normal." "I'm not pretending." "Sure you are." Marcus leaned closer, his voice dropping. "You think you can just walk away from what you were? From what you built?" "I did walk away. And look where it got you." Marcus's gaze slid back to Ava. "Sitting at weddings with strangers, pretending you're not still that man." Ethan's hand curled into a fist. "Leave." Marcus smiled. "I'm just saying, bringing her into this world? That's bold." Something dangerous flickered in Ethan's eyes. "She's not in any world. She's here with me. For now." Marcus straightened, adjusting his cuffs. "Enjoy the wedding, Ethan." "And Ava." He glanced at her one last time. "Be careful who you trust." Then he walked away, disappearing into the crowd as quickly as he'd arrived. Ava's pulse hammered. Her hands shook. She turned toward Ethan, her voice low and tight. "What the hell was that?" Ethan didn't answer immediately. He stared at the space where Marcus had been, his jaw locked. "Ethan." He looked at her finally, and for the first time she saw something close to fear in his eyes. "I need you to stay close to me," he said quietly. "Don't leave my side, not for a second." "Why?" Because I made a mistake coming here. His voice cracked slightly. And now you're part of it. Ava's chest tightened. Part of what? Ethan opened his mouth to answer, and then the lights went out. The darkness lasted 3 seconds, long enough for Ava's stomach to drop, long enough for panic to spike through the crowd, long enough for Ethan to pull her against his chest with one arm while his other hand disappeared inside his jacket. Then the backup generator kicked in. Emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in harsh white shadows. The crowd exhaled collectively, nervous laughter rippling through the tent. Someone made a joke about the venue's electrical wiring. A waiter apologized loudly about the circuit breaker. But Ethan didn't relax. His hand stayed inside his jacket. His body stayed coiled. His eyes scanned the room like he was counting exits. Ethan. Ava's voice came out smaller than she wanted. What's happening? Probably nothing. His jaw was so tight, she could see the muscle jumping beneath his skin. But we're leaving. What? No, this is my sister's wedding. I don't care. He pulled back enough to look at her, his gaze hard. Marcus showing up here wasn't a coincidence, and that blackout wasn't an accident. You don't know that. Yes, I do. His hand found hers, gripping tight. We're leaving, now. Ava pulled back. I'm not running away just because some guy you know decided to show up and be cryptic. Ava, no. Her voice sharpened. You don't get to drag me into whatever this is without explaining it first. You promised me answers. Ethan's expression cracked. Frustration, fear, something deeper. Not here. Then where? Anywhere but here. That's not good enough. Ava stepped back, putting space between them. Her pulse hammered, but her voice stayed steady. You show up at my sister's wedding like some kind of, I don't even know what. Everyone's terrified of you. Some guy named Marcus basically threatens me. And now you want me to just leave without telling me why. Ethan dragged a hand through his hair. For the first time since he'd arrived, he looked rattled. You're right. You deserve answers. But if I tell you the truth, you're going to look at me differently. Maybe I need to. His face went blank. What? Maybe I need to see who you really are. Ava's hand shook, but she forced herself to keep talking. Because right now, I don't know if you're protecting me or if you just brought danger straight to my door. Ethan flinched like she'd hit him. I would never... You already did, her voice cracked. Marcus said it himself. I'm part of this now. He was trying to scare you. Well, it worked. Ethan opened his mouth to respond, but someone called Ava's name from across the tent. Her mother appeared, weaving through guests, her face tight with confusion. Ava! Sweetheart, is everything all right? She glanced at Ethan, her smile strained. We heard the lights went out, and everything's fine, Mom. Are you sure? You look upset. I'm fine. Her mother hesitated, clearly wanting to say more, but Amber appeared suddenly, still glowing despite the chaos, her hand wrapped around her new husband's arm. What's going on? Amber asked, her gaze bouncing between Ava and Ethan. People are saying there was a problem with the power. Just a breaker, Ava said flatly. Nothing dramatic. Amber's eyes narrowed slightly. Who's your friend? Ethan Graves. He extended his hand, his expression smoothing into something polite and unreadable. Congratulations. Amber shook his hand slowly, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Thank you. I didn't realize Ava was seeing anyone. She wasn't, Ava said, until tonight. Amber's eyebrows lifted. That's sudden. Life's short, Ava said. The tension stretched thin. Amber's new husband shifted uncomfortably. Ava's mother looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Then Marcus Vane's voice cut through the awkwardness like a blade. Well, isn't this cozy? He appeared from nowhere, champagne flute in hand, his smile sharp enough to draw blood. He looked at Amber, then at Ethan, then at Ava with something dangerous glittering in his eyes. Sorry to interrupt the family reunion, Marcus said, but I wanted to properly introduce myself. He turned toward Amber, extending his hand. Marcus Vane, business associate of Ethan's. Amber shook his hand cautiously. Amber Vale. Well, Amber Reeves now, I suppose. Beautiful ceremony, Marcus said smoothly. Very romantic. Very innocent. Ethan's voice dropped into something cold. Walk away, Marcus. Relax, old friend. Marcus sipped his champagne. I'm just making conversation. No, you're not. Marcus smiled wider. You're right, I'm not. He turned toward Ava's mother. Mrs. Calloway, you have a lovely family. 2 daughters, both so different. Must have been challenging raising them. Ava's mother blinked, confused. Thank you? Especially after the accident. Marcus glanced at Ava. That must have been difficult for everyone. Ava's blood went cold. Ethan stepped forward, his hand moving toward his jacket again. That's enough. Is it? Marcus's smile never wavered. I'm just curious how much Ava knows about the man she brought here tonight. Does she know what you used to do, Ethan? Does she know how many lives you destroyed? Amber's face went pale. What is he talking about? Nothing, Ethan said flatly. He's trying to start trouble. I'm trying to be honest. Marcus set his champagne flute down on a nearby table. Ethan Graves used to run one of the most violent criminal organizations on the West Coast. Money laundering, extortion, worse. He built an empire on fear, and then one day, he just walked away. Marcus's eyes locked on Ava. I wonder why. The silence that followed felt like suffocation. Ava's mother pressed a hand to her chest. Amber stared at Ethan like he'd grown a second head. Her new husband took a small step backward. Ava couldn't breathe. Ava, Ethan started. She held up her hand, stopping him. Is it true? Ethan's jaw locked. He didn't answer. Ethan, her voice broke. Is it true? Yes. The word came out raw. But not anymore. I'm not that person. You lied to me. Ava's chest felt like it was caving in. For 6 months, you talked to me every night, and you never once told me because I knew you'd leave. You're damn right I would have left. Her voice cracked loud enough that nearby guests turned to stare. She didn't care. You let me believe you were just some normal guy dealing with loss, and the whole time you were, what, a criminal? A gangster? I was. Ethan's voice shook. Past tense. I left that life. I've been out for 2 years. And you thought that made it okay to lie? I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. That's the same thing. Ava's hands trembled. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. You made me trust you. You made me feel like I mattered. And the whole time you were hiding who you really are. I was hiding what I used to be. Ethan took a step toward her, his expression desperate. Everything I told you about how I felt, that was real. All of it. How am I supposed to believe that now? Because you know me. I thought I did. Ava shook her head, backing away. But I don't. I don't know you at all. Marcus laughed softly. Well, this is entertaining. Ethan spun toward him, fury flooding his face. Shut your mouth! Or what? Marcus's smile turned vicious. You going to hurt me, Ethan? In front of all these nice people? In front of her? He gestured toward Ava. Show her what you really are. Go ahead. Ethan's fists clenched so hard his knuckles went white. For a moment, Ava thought he might actually hit Marcus. Thought he might explode into the violence everyone seemed to expect from him. But he didn't. He just stood there, shaking, his breath coming in sharp bursts, looking at Ava like she was the only thing keeping him tethered to the ground. I'm not that man anymore, Ethan said quietly. I swear to you, Ava, I'm not. Marcus clapped slowly. Touching, really. But here's the thing, Ethan. You don't get to just walk away. You think you can build a normal life? Fall in love? Pretend the past doesn't exist? He leaned closer. It doesn't work that way, and you know it. Get out, Ethan said. No. I said get out. Make me. Marcus's voice dropped into something lethal. Go ahead. Show everyone here what happens when someone pushes Ethan Graves too far. The air felt like it might crack. Then Amber spoke. I think you should leave. Her voice was steady despite the fear in her eyes. Both of you. This is my wedding, and I don't want whatever this is happening here. Marcus glanced at her, amusement flickering across his face. Of course. My apologies. He straightened his jacket, his gaze sliding back to Ethan one last time. We'll finish this conversation later, when there aren't so many witnesses. He walked away slowly, disappearing into the crowd like a shadow. The silence he left behind felt heavier than his presence. Ava's mother spoke first, her voice thin. Ava, I think you should come with me. No. Ava didn't look at her. She stared at Ethan, her chest tight, her mind racing. I need air. She turned and walked toward the garden exit before anyone could stop her. Back. The night air hit her like cold water. Ava pushed through the vineyard gates and kept walking, her heels clicking against the stone path, her breath coming too fast. She didn't know where she was going. She just needed distance. Behind her, she heard footsteps. Ava, wait! Don't! She spun around, her voice sharp. Don't follow me. Ethan stopped 10 feet away, his hands raised slightly. Please, just let me explain. Explain what? Ava's voice cracked. That you're a criminal? That you lied to me? That you put me in danger just by showing up here? I didn't lie. You lied by omission, Ethan. That's still lying. Her hands shook. She pressed them against her sides, trying to stop the trembling. You let me believe you were someone safe, someone I could trust. And the whole time, I am safe. For you, I'm safe. How am I supposed to believe that? Because I left that world for you. His voice broke. I didn't even know you yet, but I left because I couldn't keep living that life. I couldn't keep being that person. And then I met you, and for the first time in my entire life, I felt like maybe I could be something better. Ava's throat burned. You should have told me. I know. You should have trusted me. I know. Ethan took a step closer, his expression raw. I was afraid. I thought if you knew the truth, you'd see me the way everyone else does, like I'm broken, dangerous, unfixable. I would have seen you as honest. Tears slipped down Ava's cheeks. She swiped at them angrily. I spent my whole life feeling invisible, Ethan, feeling like I didn't matter. And you made me feel seen, but it was all built on a lie. It wasn't a lie. His voice cracked. Everything I feel for you is real. Then why does it feel like I don't know you at all? Ethan opened his mouth, but before he could answer, another voice cut through the darkness. Ava? Amber appeared from the garden path, her wedding dress glowing faintly in the moonlight. She looked pale, shaken. Nothing like the radiant bride from an hour ago. What are you doing out here? Ava asked. Looking for you. Amber glanced at Ethan, then back at Ava. Can we talk? Alone? Ethan started to protest, but Ava held up her hand. Go back inside. Ava, please. Her voice broke. I can't do this right now. Ethan hesitated, his jaw working. Then he nodded once and walked back toward the vineyard, his shoulders tight. Once he was gone, Amber moved closer. She wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly looking smaller than Ava had ever seen her. Are you okay? Amber asked quietly. No. Ava laughed bitterly. Not even close. That man, Marcus, what he said about Ethan, is it true? I don't know. Ava pressed her palms against her eyes. Apparently I don't know anything anymore. Amber was quiet for a moment. Then she said something Ava didn't expect. I'm sorry. Ava lowered her hands. For what? For everything. Amber's voice shook. For making you feel invisible. For acting like you were the broken one when really I was just jealous. Ava blinked. What are you talking about? After your accident, Amber's breath hitched. Everyone kept saying how strong you were, how brave, how you handled everything with so much grace. And I hated it. Because suddenly you were the special one, the one people admired, and I was just... She broke off, tears streaming down her face. I was just the shallow sister who cared about stupid things. Amber, it peace. So I started the rumors. The words came out in a rush. I told a few people you were fragile, that you couldn't handle pity, that it was better to just leave you alone. I thought it would stop people from comparing us, but then the rumors spread, and suddenly everyone treated you like you were invisible, and I... She choked on a sob. I didn't know how to stop it, and I was too much of a coward to admit what I'd done. Ava felt like the ground had opened beneath her feet. You... Her voice came out strangled. You're the reason people ignored me? You're the reason I spent 7 years feeling like I didn't exist? Amber nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, Ava. I'm so sorry. Ava stared at her sister, at the woman who'd glowed all night beneath attention and admiration. and felt something inside her shatter completely. Get away from me. Her voice was flat, dead. Ava, please. I said get away from me. Ava backed up, her chest heaving. You ruined my life. You made me believe I was the problem, that something was wrong with me, and the whole time it was you. I know, and I'm sorry doesn't fix this. Ava's hand shook so hard she had to clench them into fists. You don't get to confess on your wedding night and expect forgiveness. I don't expect. Then what do you want? Amber's voice broke. I wanted you to know the truth. Well, congratulations. Ava's laugh came out bitter and sharp. Now I know. Now I know that my own sister destroyed me because she was jealous. Now I know that the man I thought I could trust has been lying to me for months. Now I know that I don't have anyone. That's not true. Yes, it is. Tears streamed down Ava's face. I'm completely alone, and you helped make me that way. She turned and walked away before Amber could respond. Ava didn't know where she was going. She just walked, her heels sinking into the soft grass, her vision blurred with tears. The vineyard stretched out in dark rows around her, the main reception lights fading behind her. She pulled out her phone, her hands shaking, and stared at Ethan's name in her contacts. For 6 months, he'd been the one person she could talk to, the one person who made her feel real. And now she didn't know if any of it had been true. She pressed her palms against her eyes and tried to breathe. A footstep crunched behind her. I told you to leave me alone. She spun around. But it wasn't Ethan. It was Marcus Vane. He stood 5 feet away, hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable in the darkness. Sorry to disappoint, he said. Ava's pulse spiked. What do you want? To talk. I'm not interested. That's unfortunate. Marcus took a step closer. Because I have things you need to hear. I don't need anything from you. Ava backed up. Stay away from me. Relax. I'm not here to hurt you. His smile was cold. I'm here to help you. Help me how? By telling you the truth Ethan's too afraid to say. Marcus's eyes glittered. He didn't leave his old life because he wanted to be better. He left because he was afraid. Afraid of what he'd become. Afraid of how much power he had. Afraid that one day he'd destroy everything he touched. That's not... And now he's dragging you into it. Marcus's voice dropped. Men like Ethan don't change, Ava. They just pretend. And the second something pushes them too far, the monster comes back. You don't know him. I know him better than you do. Marcus tilted his head. I was there when he built his empire. I watched him destroy people without hesitation. I saw what he's capable of. And the worst part? His smile sharpened. He enjoyed it. Ava's stomach twisted. You're lying. Am I? Marcus pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, and held it up. The screen showed a photograph. Ethan, younger, standing in a warehouse surrounded by men in dark suits. His expression was cold, empty. Nothing like the man who'd held her hand tonight. That's the real Ethan Graves, Marcus said quietly, and that's the man you let into your life. Ava stared at the photo, her chest tightening. Why are you showing me this? Because you deserve to know what you're dealing with. Marcus pocketed his phone. Ethan thinks he can protect you, but the truth is you're only in danger because of him. People like me, we don't care about you. But now that you're with him, you're a target. Then why are you here? Marcus's smile widened. Because I want Ethan to remember what happens when you try to walk away. Before Ava could react, Marcus moved. He grabbed her wrist, yanking her forward. Ava screamed, twisting hard, but his grip was iron. He pulled her toward the shadows beyond the vineyard rows, away from the lights. Let go of me! She clawed at his hand, panic flooding her veins. Relax, Marcus said. This'll be quick. Then headlights flooded the vineyard. A black SUV roared up the dirt path, tires skidding. The passenger door flew open, and 2 men in dark suits jumped out. Marcus dragged Ava toward the vehicle. She screamed again, her voice raw, kicking hard against his legs. One of the men grabbed her other arm. Stop, please. Get her in the car, Marcus ordered. Then a voice cut through the chaos like a gunshot. Let her go. Ethan stood 20 feet away, silhouetted against the reception lights. His suit jacket was gone. His sleeves were rolled up, and in his hand he held something dark and metallic. A gun. Marcus stopped, his grip tightening on Ava's wrist. You really want to do this here, Ethan? At a wedding? I'll do it anywhere. Ethan's voice was flat, cold, nothing like the man who'd whispered gentle things in Ava's ear. Let her go. Now. Or what? You'll shoot me? Marcus laughed. In front of all these people? In front of her? Ethan's hand didn't shake. Try me. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Marcus smiled. Fine. He shoved Ava forward. She stumbled, nearly falling, and Ethan caught her with one arm, pulling her behind him. Get in the car, Ethan said quietly, his eyes never leaving Marcus. Go back to the reception. Find your mother. Stay with people. Ethan, go. But before Ava could move, Marcus laughed. You really think this ends here? His smile turned vicious. You think you can just play hero and everything goes back to normal? I think you're going to leave, Ethan said, and you're never going to come near her again. Or what? Ethan raised the gun slightly. Or I remind you why people used to be afraid of me. Marcus stared at him for a long moment. Then he gestured to his men. They climbed back into the SUV slowly, their eyes locked on Ethan. Marcus opened the passenger door, then paused. This isn't over, he said. You know that, right? You pulled her into this world, and now she's part of it. She's not part of anything. Keep telling yourself that. Marcus climbed into the SUV. The engine roared. The vehicle peeled away, disappearing down the dirt road. The silence that followed felt like the world holding its breath. Ethan lowered the gun slowly, his hand finally shaking. He turned toward Ava, his face pale. Are you hurt? Ava couldn't speak. She stared at the gun in his hand, her pulse roaring in her ears. Ava, his voice cracked. Are you hurt? Her voice came out strangled. You brought a gun to my sister's wedding. Ethan looked down at the weapon like he'd forgotten he was holding it. I always carry one. That's not... Ava backed away, her chest heaving. That's not normal, Ethan. That's not... I know. He set the gun down on the ground carefully, raising his hands. I know it's not normal, but Marcus was right. I brought danger here. I put you in the middle of this. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't... Her voice broke. Tears streamed down her face. Sorry doesn't fix this. You lied to me. My sister destroyed my life, and now I'm... She choked on a sob. I'm in danger because of you. I'll fix it. Ethan took a step toward her, desperation flooding his face. I swear, Ava, I'll fix this. I'll keep you safe. How? She backed up again. How are you going to fix this when you're the reason it's broken? Ethan flinched like she'd slapped him. Behind them, voices rose from the reception. People were coming. Someone had heard the screaming. Ava looked at Ethan one last time, at the man who'd made her feel visible, who'd made her feel chosen, who'd turned her entire world upside down in a single night. I can't do this, she whispered. Then she turned and ran back toward the lights, leaving Ethan standing alone in the dark. The reception dissolved into chaos. Ava's mother found her first, pulling her into a suffocating hug while demanding to know what happened. Security guards appeared, asking questions Ava couldn't answer. Amber stood near the entrance, her face streaked with tears, but Ava couldn't look at her. Someone called the police. Ava sat in a chair near the edge of the tent, wrapped in someone's jacket, staring at nothing. Her mind felt like static. Her chest felt like it was caving in. Ethan appeared once, standing at the entrance, his expression shattered. Their eyes met across the crowded space. Then a security guard asked him to leave. He didn't argue. He just turned and walked away, disappearing into the night like he'd never been there at all. Ava watched him go, her throat burning, and for the first time in her life, she wondered if being invisible had been safer after all. 2 hours later, after the police took statements and the guests finally dispersed, Ava stood alone in the parking lot. Her mother had offered to drive her home. Amber had tried to apologize again. Ava had refused both. She pulled out her phone, her hand still shaking, and stared at Ethan's contact. Her thumb hovered over the call button. Then her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. We have unfinished business. If you want to understand what Ethan really is, meet me tomorrow. Alone. Or I'll make sure everyone you love pays the price for his mistakes. Below the message was an address. Ava's blood went cold. She looked up, scanning the dark parking lot, but saw no one. Her phone buzzed again. Don't tell Ethan, or this gets worse. Ava stared at the screen, her pulse hammering. She should delete the message. She should call the police. She should tell someone. But instead, she typed one word. When? The response came immediately. Tomorrow, noon. Come alone. Ava's hand shook as she pocketed her phone. Behind her, headlights swept across the parking lot. She turned, her heart jumping. But it wasn't Marcus. It was just another guest leaving. Ava stood there in the darkness, alone, terrified, and for the first time in her life, completely out of options. She didn't know if she would go to the meeting tomorrow, but she also didn't know if she had a choice. Because Marcus was right about one thing. Ethan had pulled her into his world, and now she was part of it whether she wanted to be or not. Ava didn't sleep. She sat on her apartment floor until dawn broke through the blinds, staring at the unknown number on her phone screen. The address Marcus had sent was somewhere in the industrial district south of the city, a part of town where buildings rusted quietly and nobody asked questions. She told herself she wouldn't go. That meeting Marcus alone was suicide. That she should call the police, call Ethan, call anyone. But every time she started to dial, she remembered Marcus's words. Don't tell Ethan, or this gets worse. Worse than being grabbed at a wedding, worse than having a gun pointed at someone she cared about, worse than learning the man she'd trusted was a criminal who'd built his life on violence. Ava pressed her palms against her eyes until she saw stars. Her missing arm ached, phantom pain, the doctors called it, like her body still remembered what wasn't there anymore. She used to think the accident was the worst thing that could happen to her, that losing part of herself physically was the ultimate betrayal. Now she knew better. Physical loss was clean. You could see it, name it, grieve it. But this? Having her sister admit to destroying her reputation out of jealousy? Finding out the first man who'd ever made her feel visible had been lying about who he was? Being threatened by a stranger because she'd accidentally stepped into a world she didn't understand? This kind of loss didn't have borders. It just spread until everything felt contaminated. At 11:45, Ava stood. She pulled on jeans and a dark jacket. She left her phone on the counter, then picked it up again. If something happened, someone needed to know where she'd gone. She opened a new message to Ethan, typed the address Marcus had sent, then stared at the screen for 30 seconds before deleting it. Instead, she typed a single sentence. If I don't come back, it's because I went looking for the truth. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. Then she walked out the door. B-Tech. The warehouse district looked exactly like every crime movie she'd ever seen. Abandoned buildings with broken windows, chain-link fences wrapped in rust, weeds pushing through cracked asphalt. Ava parked her car 2 blocks away and walked the rest of the distance, her pulse hammering in her throat. The address led to a 3-story brick building with boarded windows and graffiti crawling up the walls. A single metal door stood propped open. Ava stopped at the entrance, every instinct screaming at her to turn around. But Marcus's text burned in her mind. If you want to understand what Ethan really is. She stepped inside. The interior smelled like mildew and oil. Afternoon light slanted through gaps in the roof, casting everything in hazy stripes. Machinery sat gutted and forgotten in corners. Her footsteps echoed too loud. Hello? Her voice sounded small. Back here. Marcus's voice drifted from somewhere deeper in the building. Ava followed it, her hands clenched into fists. She turned a corner and found herself in what used to be a loading bay. Marcus stood in the center of the space, hands in his pockets, looking relaxed. Like this was a casual meeting instead of whatever nightmare she'd walked into. You came, he said. You threatened my family. Ava stopped 10 feet away. What do you want? To show you something. Marcus gestured toward a metal table behind him. Come here. I'm fine where I am. Suit yourself. He picked up a manila folder from the table and held it up. This is Ethan's life, the parts he didn't tell you about. Ava's stomach twisted. I don't need to see. Yes, you do. Marcus opened the folder. Because right now you're thinking he's some reformed criminal trying to be better. You're thinking maybe he made mistakes, but he's changed. You're thinking love conquers all that bullshit. He pulled out a photograph and held it up. This is what Ethan did 3 years ago. The photo showed a man's body, beaten beyond recognition. Blood pooled beneath him like a dark halo. Ava's throat closed. That's one of 12. Marcus dropped the photo and pulled out another. Then another. Each one worse than the last. Bodies, destruction, crime scenes that looked like war zones. Ethan Graves didn't just run a criminal organization. He personally destroyed anyone who crossed him. No hesitation, no mercy. Stop. Ava backed up, her vision blurring. I don't want to see. That's the problem, Ava. Nobody wants to see. Marcus's voice sharpened. Everyone wants to pretend men like Ethan can just decide to be good. But they can't. Violence isn't something you walk away from. It's in your blood. It's who you are. You don't know that. I do. Marcus stepped closer. Because I was there. I watched him build his empire. I watched him enjoy it, and I watched him pretend to walk away the second things got uncomfortable. Why are you telling me this? Because he's going to hurt you. Marcus's expression went cold. Maybe not today. Maybe not next week. But eventually someone will push him too far, and the monster will come back. And when it does, you'll be standing too close. Ava's hands shook. You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to save you. He set the folder down. Ethan didn't leave his old life because he wanted to be better. He left because he killed someone he shouldn't have. Someone innocent. Someone who reminded him he'd turned into the kind of man he used to hate. The words hit Ava like a physical blow. What are you talking about? Marcus pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, and turned it toward her. A news article filled the display. Local woman killed in gang crossfire. Ava's vision tunneled. She forced herself to read. The victim's name was Rachel Chen, 24 years old, college student, wrong place, wrong time, caught in violence that had nothing to do with her. Ethan gave the order that led to her death, Marcus said quietly. He didn't pull the trigger, but he set everything in motion. And when he saw what he'd done, when he realized he'd destroyed an innocent life, that's when he disappeared. Ava couldn't breathe. That's not... Ethan wouldn't... Ask him. Marcus pocketed his phone. Ask him about Rachel Chen. Ask him why he really left. And watch him lie to your face. Why are you doing this? Ava's voice cracked. If you hate him so much, why not just kill him? Marcus smiled without warmth. Because death is too easy. I want him to suffer. I want him to lose everything he tried to build. And you, Ava. His gaze locked on hers. You're the first thing he's cared about in years. So I'm going to take you away from him. Ava's pulse spiked. I'm not some prize you can use against him. No, you're collateral damage. Marcus's voice went flat. Just like Rachel Chen. Behind Ava, metal scraped against concrete. She spun around. Two men stood blocking the exit she'd come through. Both wore dark jackets. Both had guns. Ava's stomach dropped. What is this? Insurance, Marcus said. Ethan's going to come for you. I'm counting on it. And when he does, I'm going to show him exactly what happens when you try to escape the life you built. You're insane. I'm practical. Marcus gestured to his men. Take her downstairs. One of the men moved toward Ava. She backed up fast, her heart slamming against her ribs. Don't touch me. He grabbed her arm. Ava twisted hard, slamming her elbow into his ribs. He grunted, but didn't let go. The second man closed in from the other side. Let go of me! She kicked hard, catching the first man's knee. He swore, his grip loosening just enough. Ava yanked free and ran. She didn't think, didn't plan, just bolted toward a side corridor, her boots pounding against concrete. Behind her, Marcus shouted orders. Footsteps thundered after her. She crashed through a doorway into a stairwell. Up or down? Down. Always down. She took the stairs 3 at a time, her breath tearing through her lungs. The basement level was darker, colder. Rows of storage cages lined the walls, most empty, some filled with forgotten equipment. Ava ran past them, searching for another exit. There had to be another way out. Behind her, the stairwell door slammed open. There's nowhere to go! One of Marcus's men shouted. Ava spotted a door at the far end of the basement. She sprinted toward it, grabbed the handle, locked. No, no, no! She yanked harder, panic flooding her veins. Footsteps closed in behind her. Ava spun around, pressing her back against the door. Both men approached slowly, guns drawn now, their expressions calm, professional. Don't make this harder, the first one said. Please. Ava's voice shook. I didn't do anything. I'm not part of this. You are now, The second man raised his gun, pointing it directly at her chest. Then the basement exploded. Not literally, but it felt like it. The door behind the men splintered inward, wood and metal shrieking. A figure crashed through the wreckage with the force of a freight train. Ethan. He moved like violence incarnate. The first man turned, raising his gun, but Ethan was already on him. He grabbed the man's wrist, twisted hard, bone cracked, and drove his elbow into the man's face. Blood sprayed. The gun clattered to the floor. The second man fired. The shot was deafening in the enclosed space. Ava screamed, but Ethan had already moved, rolling low, closing the distance. He came up inside the man's guard and slammed him against the concrete wall, hard enough that Ava heard the impact from 15 feet away. The man dropped. Ethan stood in the center of the basement, breathing hard, blood on his knuckles, his eyes wild. Then his gaze found Ava. "Are you hurt?" His voice was raw. Ava couldn't speak, couldn't move. She just stared at him, at the man who'd crashed through a door to save her, who'd taken down 2 armed men in seconds, who looked at her now like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. "Ava." He took a step toward her. "Are you hurt?" She found her voice. "How did you—" "Your message. I tracked your phone." He moved closer, his hands raised slightly like he was approaching something fragile. "When you didn't answer my calls, I knew something was wrong. I turned it off." "Doesn't matter. I tracked it anyway." He stopped 3 feet away. "I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have, but I couldn't lose you." "Ethan." Above them, footsteps pounded. More men. Marcus's voice echoed down the stairwell. Ethan's expression went cold. "We need to leave. Now. There's no other exit." "Yes, there is." He grabbed her hand, gentle despite the violence still thrumming through him, and pulled her toward the far corner. Behind a stack of crates, a service tunnel stretched into darkness. "Maintenance access. Comes out 2 blocks over." "How did you—" "I used to own this building." His jaw tightened. "Long time ago. They ran." The tunnel was narrow, dark, smelling of rust and stagnant water. Ava stumbled once and Ethan caught her, his arm solid around her waist, pulling her forward. Behind them, voices shouted, flashlights cut through the darkness. The tunnel opened into an alley. Daylight hit Ava's eyes like a slap. Ethan didn't slow down. He pulled her toward a black car parked at the curb. Not the one he'd driven to the wedding, something older, less conspicuous. "Get in." He yanked open the passenger door. Ava climbed in. Ethan slammed the door, ran around to the driver's side, and started the engine. Tires screamed as he pulled away from the curb. Behind them, Marcus's men spilled into the alley. Someone fired a shot. The rear window cracked, but didn't shatter. Ethan swore, taking a corner too fast. Ava grabbed the dashboard, her heart hammering. "Where are we going?" she gasped. "Somewhere safe." "Where?" "I don't know yet." He glanced at her, his expression tight. "But we can't go back to your apartment. Marcus knows where you live." "How do you know that?" "Because if I were him, I'd know everything about you by now." Ethan's hands gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles went white. "I'm sorry, Ava. I'm so sorry. I should have—" "Is it true?" The words ripped out of her before she could stop them. "What Marcus said about Rachel Chen, is it true?" Ethan went rigid. The car swerved slightly before he corrected. "What did he tell you?" "That you gave an order that got her killed. That she was innocent. That you left because you couldn't live with what you'd done." Ava's voice cracked. "Is it true?" Ethan didn't answer immediately. He took another turn, then another, putting distance between them and the warehouse. Finally, he pulled into an empty parking garage and killed the engine. The silence felt suffocating. "Yes." His voice was barely a whisper. "It's true." Ava's chest caved in. "You killed someone." "I didn't pull the trigger, but I—" His breath hitched. "I set the operation in motion. I gave the orders. And when it went wrong, when she died, He broke off, pressing his palms against his eyes. "I tried to tell myself it wasn't my fault. That I hadn't known she'd be there. But it didn't matter. She was dead because of me." "Why didn't you tell me?" Ava's voice shook. "Why did you let me believe—" "Because I'm a coward." Ethan lowered his hands. His eyes were red. "Because I knew if I told you the truth, you'd look at me the way you're looking at me right now." "And how am I looking at you?" Like I'm a monster. Ava stared at him, at the man who'd saved her, who'd lied to her, who'd killed people, or caused them to die, which felt like the same thing. I don't know what you are, she said finally. I don't know if you're the man who held my hand at the wedding or the man who destroyed lives. I don't know if you saved me today because you love me or because Marcus was right and you just don't want to lose. Ethan flinched. Ava, and I don't know if I'm safe with you or if I'm just standing too close to someone who's going to explode eventually. Her voice broke. Marcus showed me pictures, Ethan. Bodies, crime scenes. He said you did that you enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it. Ethan's voice was raw. I told myself it was necessary, that it was business, that people like me didn't have the luxury of being soft, but I never enjoyed it. Then why did you do it? Because I was good at it. He looked away. Because people feared me, and for a long time that felt like the same thing as being powerful. And now? Now I know the difference. He turned back toward her, his expression broken. Power doesn't mean anything if you're alone, and I've been alone my entire life until I met you. Ava's throat burned. That's not fair. I know. You don't get to make me feel responsible for your redemption. I'm not. Ethan's hands shook. I'm just telling you the truth. For the first time since we met, I'm telling you everything. I was a bad man. I did terrible things, and I can't change that. But I left because I didn't want to be that person anymore. And I stayed away because I thought if I built a different life, maybe I could become someone worth knowing. Did it work? I don't know. His voice cracked. You tell me. Ava stared at him, at the blood still drying on his knuckles, at the fear and hope warring in his eyes, at the man who'd terrified her and saved her in the same breath. I can't do this right now, she whispered. I can't. I need time to think. We don't have time. Ethan's expression hardened. Marcus isn't going to stop. He's going to keep coming after you until what? Until he proves I can't protect the people I care about. Ethan's jaw locked. That's what this is about. Not revenge, not money. He wants to break me, and you're the easiest way to do it. Then what do? We end this. Ethan started the car again. Tonight. How? The only way men like Marcus understand. His voice went flat, cold. I'm going to make him remember why people used to be afraid of me. Ava's stomach twisted. You're going to kill him. If I have to. Ethan. He grabbed you, Ava. He threatened you. He dragged you into this because he knew it would hurt me. Ethan's hands tightened on the wheel. I'm not letting him get away with that. That's not, you can't just, yes, I can. He glanced at her, and for the first time she saw the man from Marcus's photographs. Cold, certain, capable of terrible things. This is who I am. This is what I've always been, and I'm done pretending otherwise. So what? You're just going to go back to being a criminal? You're going to become the monster everyone says you are? If that's what it takes to keep you safe? His voice didn't waver. Yes. Ava felt something inside her break completely. I don't want that. I don't care. Ethan pulled out of the parking garage. You don't get a vote anymore. Marcus made this personal, and I'm going to finish it. Then let me out. Ava reached for the door handle. Stop the car and let me out. No. Ethan. I said no. His voice turned hard. You're not safe without me, and I'm not letting you go until this is over. You can't just... I can. He glanced at her, and the look in his eyes made her blood run cold. I've already lost everything once because I wasn't willing to do what was necessary. I'm not making that mistake again. Ava stared at him, her chest tight, her mind racing. This wasn't the man who'd whispered gentle things to her. This wasn't the man who'd held her hand beneath the vineyard lights. This was someone else, someone she didn't recognize. Where are you taking me? She asked quietly. Somewhere Marcus can't reach you. And then what? Then I'm going to end this. Ethan's jaw flexed. One way or another. The car sped through the city streets, carrying Ava toward a future she couldn't see and wasn't sure she wanted. Behind them, sirens wailed in the distance, and for the first time since she'd met Ethan Graves, Ava wondered if she'd made a mistake trusting him at all. Because the man sitting beside her wasn't trying to escape his past anymore. He was embracing it, and she had no idea if she'd survive what came next. Ethan drove for 40 minutes without speaking. The city blurred past, highways giving way to industrial zones, then to older neighborhoods where buildings leaned against each other like tired soldiers. Ava watched the world slide by through the cracked rear window, her mind spinning too fast to catch hold of any single thought. Finally, Ethan pulled into a narrow alley behind a warehouse that looked abandoned. He killed the engine and sat there, hands still gripping the wheel, breathing like he'd run a marathon. "We're here," he said. "Where's here?" "Safe house. One Marcus doesn't know about." Ethan climbed out of the car. Ava followed, her legs unsteady. The building's back entrance was secured with a heavy padlock. Ethan pulled a key from his pocket. He'd been prepared for this, she realized, and opened it. Inside, the space was sparse but functional. A single room with a cot in the corner, a table, 2 chairs, and a steel cabinet against the far wall. Ethan crossed to the cabinet and pulled it open. Ava's stomach dropped. Guns. At least a dozen. Handguns, rifles, something that looked military grade, boxes of ammunition stacked neatly on the bottom shelf. "Jesus Christ," Ava whispered. Ethan pulled out a handgun, checked the magazine, then set it on the table. He reached for another. "What are you doing?" Ava asked. "Getting ready." "For what?" "For war." He didn't look at her, just kept moving, checking weapons, loading ammunition, his movements efficient and practiced, like he'd done this 1,000 times before. Ava's chest tightened. "You said you'd keep me safe." "I am. By stockpiling weapons, by planning to, what? Storm Marcus's base like some kind of action movie? Something like that." Ethan finally looked at her. His eyes were cold, empty, nothing like the man who'd held her at the wedding. "You should sit down. This might take a while." "I don't want to sit down." Ava's voice rose. "I want you to stop and think about what you're doing." "I've thought about it." He turned back to the cabinet. "This is the only way." "No, it's not." She moved closer. "We could go to the police. The police can't help us." Ethan's voice hardened. "Marcus has connections. Money. Lawyers who'd bury any charges before they stuck. And even if they arrested him, he'd be out in 48 hours. Then what? Then we disappear. We leave the city. We run?" Ethan slammed the cabinet door shut. The sound echoed like a gunshot. "You think Marcus would let us? You think he'd just forget about it?" "I think killing him makes you the monster he says you are." Ethan went still. For a long moment he didn't move. Then he turned toward her slowly. "Maybe I am," he said quietly. "Maybe I've always been." Ava's throat burned. "I don't believe that." "You should." He stepped closer. "Because the man you want me to be? The one who talks through problems and finds peaceful solutions? He doesn't exist. He never did. I tried to be him for you. I tried to pretend I could be someone different, but Marcus was right about one thing. You can't escape what you are." "So that's it?" Ava's hands shook. "You're just giving up? Going back to being a criminal because it's easier than trying to be better?" "I'm going back because it's the only language Marcus understands." Ethan's jaw flexed. "And because I'm not losing you." "You already lost me." The words came out before Ava could stop them. "The second you lied about who you were, you lost me." Ethan flinched like she'd struck him. "Ava, I'm leaving." She turned toward the door. "I don't know where I'm going, but I'm not staying here while you—" Ethan grabbed her wrist. Not hard, not violent, just enough to stop her. "Let go," Ava said. "I can't." His voice cracked. "If you leave, Marcus will find you, and I won't be there to stop him. Maybe I don't need you to stop him." She pulled against his grip. "Maybe I'm not as helpless as you think I am." "I don't think you're helpless." Ethan's eyes were desperate now. "I think you're brave and strong and better than anyone I've ever met. But Marcus doesn't care about any of that. He'll hurt you just to prove a point, and I can't—" His breath hitched. "I can't let that happen." Ava stared at him, at the fear breaking through his cold exterior, at the man who'd crashed through a door to save her, who'd tracked her phone without permission, who was preparing to kill someone to keep her safe. "This isn't love," she said quietly. "This is obsession." Ethan released her wrist like it had burned him. "You're right." He stepped back, his expression shuddering. "You should go." "What?" "You should leave. Get as far away from me as possible. I'll handle Marcus, and then—" He swallowed hard. "Then you'll never have to see me again." Ava's chest tightened. "That's not what I— It's what you meant." Ethan turned away from her. "And you're not wrong. Everything you said is true. I lied to you. I dragged you into danger. I'm planning to do something that'll make you hate me even more. So go. Get out while you still can." Ava stood frozen, her mind warring with itself. Part of her wanted to run, to leave this nightmare behind and pretend she'd never met Ethan Graves. But another part, the part that had spent 6 months talking to him every night, that had felt seen for the first time in her life, that had watched him fight his way through armed men to save her, couldn't move. What happened to Rachel Chen? The question came out before she could stop it. The truth, not Marcus's version. Ethan's shoulders tensed. He didn't turn around. "Why does it matter?" "Because I need to know if you're worth saving." His laugh was bitter. "I'm not." "Let me decide that." Silence stretched between them. Then Ethan spoke, his voice so quiet Ava almost didn't hear him. She was a grad student, working late at a coffee shop near campus. My organization, we were moving a shipment through that neighborhood. Someone tipped off a rival group. They ambushed us. He stopped, his hands clenching into fists. The shooting started. Rachel was caught in the crossfire. She died before the ambulance arrived. "And you gave the order to move the shipment?" "Yes." "But you didn't know she'd be there." "Doesn't matter." Ethan's voice broke. "She died because of me. Because I was too arrogant to think about collateral damage. Because I treated people like obstacles instead of—" He pressed his palms against the table. "I went to her funeral, stood in the back, watched her parents bury their daughter, and I realized—" His breath hitched. "I realized I'd become the kind of person I used to hate." Ava's throat ached. "So you left." "So I ran away like a coward." He finally turned toward her. His eyes were red. "I told myself I was done with that life, that I'd be different, better. But the second Marcus threatened you, all those promises disappeared. Because at the end of the day, I'm still the same man who got Rachel Chen killed. I'm still capable of terrible things, and I'm still willing to do them if it means protecting what's mine." "I'm not yours." "I know." His voice cracked completely. "But I wish you were." The words hung in the air between them, raw and honest and devastating. Ava stared at him, her chest tight, her mind screaming at her to leave, but her feet wouldn't move. "If you go after Marcus," she said finally, "you're going to die." "Probably." "That's not— You can't just— What's the alternative?" Ethan spread his hands. "Let him keep hunting you, spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders, wait until he decides to make good on his threats? We could run, together. Disappear somewhere he can't find us." "He'd find us." Ethan shook his head. "Men like Marcus don't give up. They don't forget. And they sure as hell don't forgive. Then we go to the FBI. Witness protection, something. And tell them what? That a criminal I used to work with is threatening me? They'd investigate. Marcus would lawyer up. And in the meantime, you'd be exposed, vulnerable." His jaw locked. "I'm not risking that. So you're just going to what? Walk into whatever trap he's setting and hope you come out alive?" "I'm not hoping." Ethan picked up the handgun from the table. "I'm planning." "With what? Guns and rage?" Ava's voice rose. "That's not a plan. That's suicide." "Maybe." He checked the magazine again. "But it's the only option that keeps you safe." "I don't want to be safe if it means you're dead." The words exploded out of her before she could stop them. Ethan went completely still. The gun hung loose in his hand. He stared at her like she'd just torn open a wound he'd been trying to keep closed. "What did you say?" His voice was barely a whisper. Ava's chest heaved. Tears burned behind her eyes. "I said I don't want you to die. Even if you're a liar, even if you're dangerous, even if every rational part of my brain is telling me to run as far away from you as possible, I don't want you to die." Ethan set the gun down carefully. His hands shook. "Ava..." Shut up. She crossed the distance between them in 3 steps. Just shut up for a second and let me think. But she couldn't think. Her mind was white noise. Her heart slammed against her ribs so hard it hurt. She looked at Ethan, at the man who'd saved her and lied to her and terrified her, and realized something horrifying. She couldn't leave him, not because she was afraid, not because she needed protection, but because somewhere in the chaos of the past 2 days, she'd started caring about him in a way that made no logical sense. "I'm going with you," she said. Ethan's eyes widened. "No." "Yes." "Ava, that's insane. I don't care." Her voice steadied. "You said Marcus wants to break you by taking me away. So let's take away his leverage. I'm not hiding while you walk into danger. I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not. You don't get to decide that." "The hell I don't." Ethan stepped closer, his expression fierce. "I'm trying to keep you alive. That means keeping you as far away from Marcus as possible. And I'm trying to keep you from doing something stupid." Ava met his gaze head on. "You think you can just charge in there alone and win? Against how many men? 5, 10? You'll be dead before you reach Marcus." "Better me than you." "That's not how this works." Her hands curled into fists. "You don't get to martyr yourself and call it love." "I'm not—" "Yes, you are." Ava's voice cracked. "You're planning to die because you think that's what you deserve. But I'm telling you right now, if you die, Marcus wins. He gets exactly what he wants. You broken, me destroyed, everything you tried to protect gone." Ethan's jaw worked. His hands shook. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to let me help." "How?" "I don't know yet." Ava took a breath. "But 2 people have a better chance than 1. Even if one of them only has 1 arm and no combat training." Despite everything, Ethan's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "You're insane." "I'm practical." She echoed Marcus's words from earlier, her voice hardening. "And I'm done being the helpless victim everyone thinks I am." Ethan stared at her for a long moment. Then he reached out slowly and cupped her face with one hand, his touch impossibly gentle. "If something happens to you, it won't. If something happens to you," he continued, his voice breaking, "I'll never forgive myself." "Then make sure nothing happens." Ava covered his hand with hers. "And stop acting like this is goodbye." Ethan's thumb brushed across her cheek. For a moment she thought he might kiss her, might pull her close and let the world disappear. Instead, he stepped back. "Okay," he said quietly. "We do this together, but you follow my lead. No arguments, no heroics. You do exactly what I say when I say it. Understood?" Ava nodded. "I need to hear you say it." "I understand." "Good." Ethan turned back to the weapons cabinet. "Then we need to move fast. Marcus isn't going to wait." "Where is he?" "Probably back at the warehouse, or somewhere nearby." Ethan pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, then showed her the screen. A text from an unknown number. "You took something of mine. I'm taking something of yours. Even trade." "Midnight. You know where. The message was timestamped 20 minutes ago." Ava's stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" "It means Marcus grabbed someone." Ethan's expression went dark. "Someone close to me. Or close to you." "Who?" "I don't know yet." He scrolled through his contacts, dialing fast. The call went straight to voicemail. He tried another number. Same result. Then his face went pale. "What?" Ava asked. "Your sister." He looked up, his eyes wide. "When's the last time you talked to Amber?" Ava's blood went cold. "Last night. At the wedding. She tried to apologize and Her voice broke. "I walked away." Ethan was already dialing. The phone rang once, twice, then someone answered, but it wasn't Amber. "Ethan Graves." Marcus's voice filled the small room, smooth and poisonous. "Right on time." Ethan put the call on speaker. "Where is she?" "Safe, for now." Background noise filtered through. Wind, maybe. Traffic. "Pretty girl. Cries a lot. Keeps asking for her sister." Ava's knees almost buckled. "If you hurt her..." "Ava." Marcus sounded delighted. "I was hoping you'd be listening. Tell me, how does it feel knowing your sister's suffering because of you?" "Let her go." Ava's voice shook. "She has nothing to do with this." Neither did you, but here we are. Marcus's smile was audible. Midnight. The address I sent. You bring Ethan, I'll bring Amber. We settle this once and for all. And then what? Ethan asked. Then one of us walks away. Marcus's voice dropped into something lethal. The other doesn't. The line went dead. Silence flooded the room. Ava stared at the phone, her pulse roaring in her ears. He has Amber. I know. We have to call the police. We have 5 hours. Ethan set the phone down. His expression was carved from stone. And calling the police will get Amber killed. Then what do? We go. Ethan picked up the handgun again. And we end this. How? Ava's voice cracked. You said yourself, Marcus has men, resources. What do we have? Ethan looked at her, his eyes cold and certain. Rage, he said quietly, and nothing left to lose. Chats. They spent the next 4 hours preparing. Ethan laid out weapons on the table. Handguns, a tactical vest, something he called a flashbang grenade. He explained his plan in short, clipped sentences. Ava listened, her mind struggling to process the impossible reality of what they were about to do. The warehouse has 3 entrances, Ethan said, pointing to a rough sketch he'd drawn. Front, back, and a loading dock on the east side. Marcus will expect us to come through the front, so we go through the loading dock. What if it's locked? It will be. I'll handle it. He tapped another section of the sketch. Main floor is open, no cover except support columns. That's where Marcus will set up. He'll have men positioned on the catwalks above, crossfire angles. Ava's stomach twisted. How many men? At least 6, maybe more. And there's 2 of us. 3. Ethan glanced at her. Amber's still alive. She can help once we free her. If we free her? When? His voice was hard. Not if. Ava wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this plan, crazy and desperate as it was, would actually work. But all she could think about was Rachel Chen, about the innocent woman who died because Ethan miscalculated. What if something goes wrong? She asked quietly. Ethan stopped moving. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he crossed the room and took her hand. If something goes wrong, he said, you run. You don't look back. You don't try to save me. You just run. I'm not... Promise me. His grip tightened. Promise me, Ava, if this goes bad, you save yourself. Ava stared at him, at the man who'd terrified her and protected her, who'd lied to her and trusted her with his worst truths, who was about to walk into a death trap because he couldn't live with the alternative. I promise, she lied. Ethan's expression softened slightly. He raised her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles gently. Thank you, he whispered. Then he released her and went back to preparing weapons. At 11:30, they left the safe house. The drive to the warehouse felt like descending into hell. Every mile brought them closer to violence, to blood, to an ending neither of them could predict. Ava sat in the passenger seat, a handgun heavy in her lap, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. You don't have to do this, Ethan said quietly. Yes, I do. Ava, she's my sister. Her voice cracked. I can't leave her. Even after what she did to you. Even then. Ava looked at him. Because that's what love is. Staying even when it's hard. Even when the person doesn't deserve it. Ethan's jaw flexed. He didn't respond. Just kept driving. They parked 2 blocks away from the warehouse and approached on foot. The industrial district was dead at midnight. No traffic, no witnesses, just empty streets and broken streetlights. The warehouse loomed ahead, its windows dark, its silhouette sharp against the night sky. Ethan stopped at the corner, his hand on Ava's shoulder. Last chance, he said. You can still walk away. Ava looked up at the warehouse, at the place where her sister was being held, where Marcus waited with violence and vengeance. She thought about the past 7 years, about being invisible, about accepting pity and learning to shrink herself so others felt comfortable, about spending her entire life afraid of being too much or not enough. And she realized something. She was done being afraid. Let's go, she said. Ethan's expression flickered, something between pride and terror. Then he nodded once and led her toward the loading dock entrance. The metal door was locked, just as he'd predicted. Ethan pulled out a small tool, worked it into the mechanism, and the lock clicked open within seconds. They slipped inside. The warehouse interior was cavernous and dark. Moonlight filtered through high windows, casting everything in shades of gray. Ava could hear voices above them, men talking, footsteps on metal catwalks. Ethan moved like a shadow, silent and deliberate. Ava followed, her pulse roaring in her ears. They reached the main floor. Ethan held up his hand, signaling her to stop. Then he pointed upward. 3 men on the catwalks, 2 on the far side, 1 directly above them. Ethan pulled out the flashbang grenade. He met Ava's eyes, mouthing 3 words. "Stay behind me." Then he pulled the pin and threw it. The explosion of light and sound was deafening. Men shouted. Footsteps pounded. Gunfire erupted. Wild, panicked, hitting nothing. Ethan moved. He was on the first man before the ringing stopped, disarming him with brutal efficiency. The man went down hard. Ethan grabbed his rifle and kept moving. 2 more men appeared from the shadows. Ethan fired twice. Both dropped. Ava pressed herself against a support column, her hands shaking, the gun heavy in her grip. Around her, the warehouse had erupted into chaos, voices shouting, more gunfire, the metallic clang of boots on steel. Then she saw Amber. Her sister was tied to a chair in the center of the floor, her mouth gagged, her eyes wide with terror. Bruises darkened her cheek. Ava's chest caved in. She ran. "Ava, wait!" Ethan's voice cut through the noise, but she was already moving. She reached Amber, falling to her knees, her hands fumbling with the ropes. Amber sobbed behind the gag, her body shaking. "I've got you," Ava whispered. "I've got you. It's okay." How touching. Marcus's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Ava's blood went cold. She turned slowly. Marcus stood 10 feet away, a gun aimed directly at her chest. Behind him, 3 more men appeared from the shadows, their weapons raised, and behind them, trapped between the exit and Marcus's men, Ethan stood frozen, his rifle lowered, his expression shattered. He'd been flanked, outnumbered, outmaneuvered. Marcus smiled. "Drop the weapon, Ethan," he said, "or I put a bullet in her sister's head." Ethan's hands shook, his jaw locked. For a moment, Ava thought he might refuse, might try to fight his way out. Then he dropped the rifle. It clattered against the concrete, impossibly loud in the sudden silence. Marcus's smile widened. "Good boy," he said. "Now, let's finish this." The rifle hit the concrete with a sound that felt like the end of everything. Ethan stood 15 feet away, his hands raised, his chest heaving. Blood streaked his knuckles from the earlier fight. His eyes locked on Ava with an expression she'd never seen before. Raw terror mixed with something that looked like an apology. Marcus kept his gun trained on Ava, his smile sharp enough to cut. "I have to admit, Ethan, I'm disappointed. I expected more of a fight." "You got your fight." Ethan's voice was flat. "Now, let them go." "Let them go?" Marcus laughed. "That's not how this works. You don't get to negotiate. You lost the second you walked through that door thinking you could save anyone." Behind Ava, Amber sobbed against the gag. Ava's fingers worked frantically at the ropes binding her sister's wrists, but they were too tight, her hands shaking too hard. "Please," Ava said, her voice cracking. "My sister has nothing to do with this. Let her go and I'll—" "You'll what?" Marcus turned his attention to her, his gun steady. "Beg? Offer yourself up? You think you have something I want? You want to hurt Ethan." Ava forced herself to meet his eyes. "So hurt me instead. Let Amber go. Keep me. Make him watch. Isn't that what you wanted?" "Ava, shut up." Ethan took a step forward. 2 of Marcus's men immediately raised their weapons. He froze. "No, let her talk." Marcus tilted his head, studying Ava like she was an interesting insect. "I'm curious what she thinks her life is worth." "More than yours." The words came out before Ava could stop them. Marcus's smile flickered. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." Ava's hand stopped shaking. Something cold and certain settled in her chest. The same feeling she'd had 7 years ago when she'd woken up in the hospital and realized her arm was gone, and she had 2 choices, give up or survive. You're a coward who gets off on hurting people because it's the only thing that makes you feel powerful. But Ethan walked away from that. He chose to be better. And you can't stand it because it proves what you really are. Ava! Ethan's voice was desperate. Stop talking. What I really am? Marcus's voice went cold. I'm the man holding the gun. That makes me powerful enough. No. Ava stood slowly, placing herself between Marcus and Amber. It just makes you afraid. For half a second, Marcus's expression cracked. Fury flooded his face, his finger tightened on the trigger. Then Ethan moved. He didn't run, didn't dive for cover. He just stepped directly into Marcus's line of fire, placing his body between the gun and Ava. You want to shoot someone? Ethan's voice was steady. Shoot me. Marcus's jaw flexed. Don't tempt me. I'm not tempting you. I'm giving you what you came for. Ethan spread his arms. This was never about Ava or Amber. It was always about me. About proving I couldn't escape what I used to be. So here I am, unarmed, outnumbered, yours. Pull the trigger and it's over. The warehouse went silent. Even Marcus's men seemed to be holding their breath. Marcus stared at Ethan for a long moment. Then he lowered his gun slightly. You think I want it to be that easy? His voice dropped into something venomous. You think I spent 2 years tracking you down just to put a bullet in your head and call it done? Then what do you want? I want you to suffer. Marcus's smile returned, sharper than before. I want you to watch everyone you care about die knowing it's your fault. I want you to live with that the way I lived with what you did to me. Ethan's expression flickered. What I did to you? You left. Marcus's voice cracked. You walked away from everything we built, from everyone who followed you. You made us believe we were building something that mattered, and then you disappeared the second it got hard. Rachel Chen died. I don't care about Rachel Chen, Marcus's shout echoed through the warehouse. I care that you abandoned us, that you decided you were too good for the life you created, that you got to walk away clean while the rest of us... He broke off, his chest heaving, while the rest of us had to keep living in the world you built. Silence stretched between them. Then Ethan spoke, his voice quiet and raw. You're right. Marcus blinked. What? You're right. Ethan's hands lowered slightly. I abandoned everyone. I built an empire on violence and fear, and when I couldn't live with myself anymore, I ran. I left you and everyone else to deal with the consequences. And I'm sorry. Sorry? Marcus laughed bitterly. You think sorry fixes anything? No. Ethan's jaw tightened. Nothing fixes it. I can't bring back the people we hurt. I can't undo the damage we caused. All I can do is try to be better than I was. And I know that's not enough. I know it doesn't balance the scales, but it's all I have. Marcus stared at him, his gun hand trembling. For a moment, Ava thought he might actually lower the weapon, might let the rage drain out of him. Then his expression hardened. It's not enough, Marcus said quietly. Not even close. He raised his gun again, and Ava lunged. She didn't think, didn't plan, just threw herself forward, slamming into Marcus's arm as he fired. The shot went wide, punching through empty air. Marcus stumbled backward, cursing. Ethan exploded into motion. He closed the distance between them in 2 steps, driving his fist into Marcus's jaw hard enough that Ava heard bone crack. Marcus went down, his gun skittering across the concrete. The warehouse erupted. Marcus's men opened fire. Ethan grabbed Ava and yanked her behind a support column as bullets chewed through the concrete around them. Amber screamed behind her gag. Stay down! Ethan shoved Ava flat against the floor, his body covering hers. Above them, gunfire echoed like thunder. Ava pressed her face against the cold concrete, her ears ringing, her heart slamming against her ribs so hard she thought it might break through. Then the gunfire stopped. For 3 seconds, there was only silence. Then footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Ava lifted her head. Through the haze of gunpowder smoke, she saw Marcus standing over them, blood streaming from his nose, his gun back in his hand. Get up, he said. Ethan didn't move. His body stayed pressed over Ava's, shielding her. I said get up. Marcus kicked Ethan's shoulder. Or I shoot her right now. Ethan pushed himself up slowly. Ava started to follow, but he pressed her down with one hand. Stay, he whispered. Please. Then he stood, placing himself between Ava and Marcus one more time. Marcus's gun pressed against Ethan's forehead. You really think you're a hero, don't you? You think dying for her makes up for everything you've done. No, Ethan's voice was steady. But it's a start. Marcus's finger tightened on the trigger, and Ava saw it. The gun Ethan had dropped earlier, 10 feet away, half hidden in shadow. She didn't think, just moved. Her hand closed around the grip. She rolled onto her back, raised the weapon with shaking hands, and fired. The recoil nearly broke her wrist. The shot was wild, amateur, but it hit. Marcus screamed, his gun arm jerking sideways. Blood bloomed across his shoulder. He staggered backward, shock flooding his face. Ethan didn't waste the opening. He drove forward, slamming Marcus against the concrete. They hit hard enough that Ava felt the impact through the floor. Ethan's fists came down like hammers, once, twice, 3 times, until Marcus stopped moving. Then Ethan collapsed beside him, breathing like he'd run a marathon. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Ava heard sobbing. Amber, still tied to the chair, still terrified. Ava forced herself to her feet, her legs shaking so badly she nearly fell. She stumbled toward her sister, her fingers working at the ropes until they finally came loose. Amber's hands flew to the gag, yanking it down. She gasped, tears streaming down her face. "Ava!" Her voice was wrecked. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Later. Ava pulled her sister into a fierce hug. "We'll talk later. Right now we need to—" Sirens wailed in the distance. Ethan lifted his head, his expression going blank. Someone called the cops. "Probably the gunfire," Ava said. "We need to go." He pushed himself to his feet, swaying slightly. "Now." "What about him?" Ava looked at Marcus, unconscious and bleeding on the floor. "Leave him." Ethan's voice was flat. "Let the police deal with it." "But, Ava." He turned toward her, his eyes hollow. "We need to go. If they find us here, if they connect us to this, we'll spend the rest of our lives in prison. Is that what you want?" Ava stared at him, at the man who'd saved her and lied to her, who'd nearly died for her, who was standing in a warehouse full of bodies and broken glass, offering her one last chance to walk away from this nightmare. "No," she whispered. "Then we go." He held out his hand. "Right now." Ava looked at Amber. Her sister nodded frantically, her eyes wide. Ava took Ethan's hand. They ran. The police found the warehouse 15 minutes later. By then, Ava, Ethan, and Amber were 5 miles away. Driving through empty streets in a stolen car Ethan had hot-wired from the industrial district. Nobody spoke. Amber sat in the back seat, her arms wrapped around herself, her face streaked with tears. Ethan drove with mechanical precision, his jaw locked. Ava stared out the window, watching the city blur past, her mind too exhausted to process anything. Finally, Ethan pulled into a gas station parking lot and killed the engine. "We can't go back to your apartments," he said. "Marcus's people might be watching them." "So where do we go?" Ava asked. "I have a place, outside the city. It's not much, but it's safe." "For how long?" Ethan's jaw flexed. "As long as it takes." "Takes for what?" "For me to fix this." He turned toward her, his expression raw. "I'll find a way to make Marcus's organization back off. I don't know. I'll figure something out." "Ethan, I know." His voice cracked. "I know I promised I was done with that world. I know I said I'd be better. But if it's the only way to keep you safe, stop!" Ava grabbed his hand, forcing him to look at her. "Just stop. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to save everyone. Sometimes—" Her voice broke. "Sometimes surviving is enough." Ethan stared at her. Tears slipped down his cheeks, cutting clean lines through the blood and grime on his face. "I don't know how to do that," he whispered. "I don't know how to just survive." "Then I'll teach you." Ava squeezed his hand. "We'll figure it out together, after everything I put you through." "You didn't put me through anything." Ava's throat ached. "I chose to stay. I chose to help. I chose you. And I'm still choosing you, even though you're a disaster. Even though you're dangerous, even though every rational part of my brain says I should run as far away from you as possible." "Why?" Ethan's voice was desperate. "Why would you choose me?" "Because you chose me first." Ava touched his face gently. "When everyone else made me invisible, You saw me. And maybe that started with lies, but it ended with you taking a bullet meant for me. So yeah, I'm choosing you, and you're going to have to live with that. Ethan let out a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob. He pulled her close, burying his face against her shoulder, his body shaking. I don't deserve you, he whispered. Probably not. Ava held him tightly. But you're stuck with me anyway. Behind them, Amber cleared her throat softly. I'm sorry, she said, for interrupting, but also for everything, for the rumors, for making you feel invisible, for being too selfish to see what I was doing to you. Ava turned toward her sister. Amber looked small in the back seat, her wedding makeup streaked with tears and dirt, nothing like the radiant bride from 2 days ago. I don't forgive you, Ava said quietly. Not yet. You destroyed 7 years of my life because you were jealous. That's not something I can just let go of. Amber nodded, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. I know, I don't expect, but, Ava continued, you're still my sister, and maybe someday, if you actually put in the work to be better, we can figure out how to be family again. I will. Amber's voice was fierce. I swear, Ava, I'll spend the rest of my life making this up to you. Don't make promises you can't keep. I'm not. Amber leaned forward. You saved my life tonight. You came for me even after what I did to you. That's who you are. And I want to be like that. I want to be someone worth having as a sister. Ava stared at her for a long moment. Then she reached back and squeezed Amber's hand. Then start now, Ava said. Be honest. Be kind. Be someone I can trust again. I will, Amber whispered. I promise. Ethan pulled away from Ava, wiping his eyes. We should keep moving. The longer we stay in one place. His phone buzzed. All three of them froze. Ethan pulled it out slowly. A text from an unknown number. Marcus is in custody. His organization is collapsing. You're clear, for now. Below that, another line. Stay clean, Graves. Don't make me regret letting you walk away twice. Ethan stared at the message for a long moment. Then he showed it to Ava. Who sent that? She asked. Someone I used to know. Someone who... He broke off, shaking his head. It doesn't matter. What matters is we're safe. For now, Ava echoed. What does that mean? It means I don't go back. Ethan pocketed the phone. I stay clean. I stay away from that world. And I hope it's enough. And if it's not, then we run. He looked at her, his expression serious. Together. If it comes to that, if the past catches up again, we run together. No more secrets, no more lies. Just us, figuring it out. Ava nodded slowly. Okay? Okay? Okay. She leaned across the console and kissed him, not desperately, not frantically, just softly, deliberately, like she was making a promise. When she pulled back, Ethan's eyes were wet again. I love you, he said quietly. I should have said it earlier. I should have said it 100 times, but I love you, Ava Calloway, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be someone worthy of that. You already are. Ava smiled despite everything. You just need to start believing it. 6 months later, Ava stood in front of a mirror in a small apartment 3 states away from California. Sunlight spilled through the windows, warming the hardwood floors. She adjusted the sleeve of her dress, custom made to fit around the prosthetic arm she'd finally agreed to try. The metal and carbon fiber gleamed beneath the fabric, visible and unapologetic. Behind her, Amber appeared in the doorway. You ready? She asked. Almost. Ava turned away from the mirror. How do I look? Beautiful. Amber's smile was soft, sincere. Really beautiful. The past 6 months had been hard. Therapy sessions where Ava confronted the pain Amber had caused, late-night conversations where they both cried and screamed and said things they'd never been able to say before. Slowly, painfully, they'd started rebuilding trust. It wasn't perfect. Some days Ava still felt the old anger rise up. But they were trying. That was enough for now. Is Ethan ready? Ava asked. He's been ready for an hour. Amber laughed. He's pacing outside like he thinks you might run away. I'm not running. I know. Amber crossed the room and hugged her sister carefully. I'm proud of you. For everything. for surviving, for being strong enough to love someone even after everything that happened. Ava held her tightly. Thank you for being here. Where else would I be? They pulled apart. Ava took one last look in the mirror, then walked toward the door. Outside, in a small garden behind the apartment building, Ethan waited beneath a simple wooden arbor. He wore a dark suit, his hands clasped in front of him, his expression nervous and hopeful. When he saw Ava, his entire face lit up. She walked toward him slowly, her heart full in a way she'd never thought possible. Not because everything was perfect, not because the past was erased, but because they'd survived it together. When she reached him, Ethan took her hand gently. Hi, he said. Hi. You look... His voice caught. You look perfect. I look like me. Ava smiled. Finally. The ceremony was small. Just Amber, a justice of the peace, and 2 witnesses Ethan had found through connections Ava didn't ask about. No fancy venue, no elaborate decorations, just 2 people making promises they intended to keep. When it came time for vows, Ethan spoke first. I spent most of my life believing I was defined by the worst things I'd done, he said quietly. That there was no redemption for someone like me. No second chances. No hope. He squeezed Ava's hand. Then I met you. And you didn't just see the man I was trying to be. You saw the man I could become. You gave me a reason to be better, not because you asked for it, but because you believed I was worth the effort. His voice cracked. I promise to protect you without controlling you. To be honest, even when it's hard. To love you without conditions. And to spend every day trying to be someone worthy of your faith in me. Ava's throat ached. She blinked back tears and spoke, her voice steady despite everything. I used to think being invisible was the worst thing that could happen to someone, she said. That not being seen meant not mattering, but you showed me something different. You showed me that being seen isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest, about letting someone know all your broken parts and trusting them to stay anyway. She took a breath. You're not perfect, Ethan. You've made terrible mistakes. You've hurt people. You've lied to me, but you've also fought for me, saved me, chosen me when nobody else did. And I choose you back, not because you're flawless, but because you're real. And because I'd rather spend my life with someone imperfect who tries than someone perfect who doesn't. Ethan's eyes streamed tears. He didn't bother wiping them away. The justice of the peace pronounced them married. Ethan pulled Ava close and kissed her beneath the afternoon sun, while Amber cried happy tears and everything felt impossibly, beautifully real. That night, they sat on the apartment's small balcony, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. Ethan's arm was wrapped around Ava's shoulders. She leaned against his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong. Do you think Marcus will come back? She asked quietly. Maybe. Ethan's voice was calm. But not soon. And not without consequences. The people who used to follow him, most of them scattered. The organization collapsed. He'll have to rebuild from nothing. That takes time. And what do we do until then? We live. He kissed the top of her head. We build something real. Something that's not based on fear or power. Just us. Being together. Being honest. Ava turned to look at him. You think it's that simple? No. Ethan's smile was sad. But I think it's worth trying. Ava nodded slowly. She looked out at the city, at the lights spreading toward the horizon, and thought about the woman she'd been 6 months ago. Invisible, ashamed, afraid of taking up space. That woman was gone. In her place was someone who'd survived violence and betrayal, who'd chosen to stay when running would have been easier, who'd learned that being seen wasn't about being perfect. It was about being brave enough to be yourself even when the world tried to make you smaller. I'm glad I met you, Ava said quietly. Even with everything that happened, even knowing what it cost, I'm glad. Ethan's arm tightened around her. So am I. They sat there in comfortable silence as the night deepened around them. Behind them, through the apartment window, Amber moved quietly in the kitchen, cleaning up after dinner. The sound was domestic and ordinary and impossibly precious. This was what surviving looked like, Ava realized. Not perfect, not easy, just real. And for the first time in her life, that was enough. Months turned into years. Ethan found work as a consultant for security firms, using his knowledge of criminal organizations to help legitimate businesses protect themselves. Ava went back to school, studying social work, determined to help people who felt invisible the way she once had. Amber rebuilt her life too. She divorced her husband after 6 months, realizing she'd married him for the wrong reasons, and moved closer to Ava. The sisters spent Sunday afternoons together, slowly stitching their relationship back into something that felt like family. Marcus stayed in prison for 18 months, then disappeared into the kind of obscurity men like him usually avoided. Ethan heard rumors occasionally that Marcus had left the country, that he'd started over somewhere else, that he'd given up the violent life entirely. Whether those rumors were true didn't matter. Marcus was gone, and the world kept turning. One evening, 3 years after the wedding, Ava sat on the same balcony with Ethan. She wore her prosthetic arm openly now, had even gotten one custom designed with silver engravings that looked like vines climbing toward her shoulder. Not hiding, not apologizing, just existing. Ethan leaned back in his chair, a beer in one hand, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. "You know what I realized today?" he said. "What?" "I'm happy." He said it like the words surprised him. Actually, genuinely happy. Not just not in pain, but happy. Ava smiled. "Took you long enough?" "Yeah." He laughed softly. "Took me a lifetime." Ava reached over and took his hand. He laced his fingers through hers automatically, the gesture so familiar now it felt like breathing. "I used to think I was invisible," she said quietly. "That nobody would ever really see me, but you did. And you taught me something important." "What's that?" "That being seen isn't about other people." Ava looked at him, her eyes serious. "It's about seeing yourself, accepting yourself, believing you're worth the space you take up. The rest, the love, the connection, the relationships, that all comes after." Ethan squeezed her hand. "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise." Ava grinned. "You just didn't notice because you were too busy being dramatic." He laughed, a real laugh, deep and genuine. Then he pulled her close and kissed her forehead gently. "I love you," he said, "for the record, in case I don't say it enough." "You say it plenty." Ava rested her head against his shoulder. "But I'll never get tired of hearing it." They sat together as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Behind them, through the open window, music played softly. Life continued, ordinary and extraordinary all at once. Ava closed her eyes and breathed in deep. She thought about the woman she'd been, the one who'd stood at her sister's wedding feeling invisible and alone, who'd sent a desperate message to a stranger hoping for connection. That woman would never have believed this ending was possible, would never have imagined that pain and violence could transform into something resembling peace. But here she was. Alive, loved, visible. Not because someone else made her that way, but because she'd chosen to see herself first, and that made all the difference. The world didn't stop being complicated. Ethan still had nightmares sometimes, waking up gasping, reaching for weapons that weren't there. Ava still struggled with moments of doubt, wondering if she'd made the right choices. Amber still called crying occasionally, wrestling with guilt over the years she'd stolen from her sister. But they survived it, together, because that's what love actually looked like. Not perfect, not painless, just two people choosing each other every single day, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. As darkness fell completely and stars began appearing overhead, Ethan spoke one more time. "You know what the best part is?" he asked. "What?" "This isn't the ending." His voice was soft, certain. "This is just the beginning." Ava smiled, her chest full. "Yeah," she whispered, "it is." And for the first time in her life, she believed it.